Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has a lot of hidden details that you'll completely miss if you only play through the main story. And the one we're covering in today's video provides a lot of additional context that you otherwise would have completely missed. You see, right after the prologue of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you and Hans Capon end up splitting up after an argument. Each of you then goes your separate ways. And one of the first things I thought at this time is, can I actually follow Sir Capon and see where he goes, or does he just disappear until later on in the game? Because that is what most game developers would do, instead of adding in content that 80% of players might completely miss. So obviously, if you do follow the main quest line to get an invitation to the wedding, you'll eventually end up being reunited with Sir Hans Capon during the events of the wedding. But can you find him before the wedding? Well, it turns out that you can, and I discovered this completely by accident. But since it's so easy to miss, and it really adds some interesting context into the main storyline, I thought I'd make a video on how to find Sir Hans Capon before the wedding, and what actually happens if you do. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this, but the first involves two very lengthy side quests that must be completed before the wedding. And something very funny happens if you actually skip the first one using the method I'm about to show you. So the first side quest is called Lacky, and it can be started by visiting the gamekeeper's hut, which you can reach if you go northwest from Troskowitz to Tagoff, and then directly west along the road from Tagoff until you reach the gamekeeper's hut. This is where gamekeeper Verstatic usually lives, and when you arrive, you actually find his wife complaining about her missing husband. And if you talk to her, she'll then mark an area on your map that she thinks he's gone missing. And once you arrive in this area, you'll hear him shouting that he doesn't want to die sober. He's also halfway up a tree surrounded by wolves, which you'll have to get rid of. After clearing up the wolves, he jumps off the tree and manages to twist his ankle. At this point, he then requests that you carry him to his horse Pepik, who he left in his hidden hunting camp. But instead of following his absolutely terrible directions, there's actually a hidden shortcut that isn't even a quest objective. And I wanted to see if the developer had actually thought about the player doing this instead. So I picked him up, put him over my shoulder, and carried him back to his wife. And it turns out you can actually finish the quest much faster and get some unique dialogue for doing this, but obviously at the cost of a worse reward. But even so, I'm doing it anyway just to show you what happens. I'm gonna just drop it in the cabbage patch. Look who I have here.
Ave Maria. Vostatek! There you are!
Zlata!
What happened?
I shot a deer and the carcass attracted a pack of wolves. They chased me up a tree.
Christ's wolves!
But as I was climbing down, I hurt my foot.
My God! You're lucky to be alive. What happened then?
I'll tell you later, Zlata. Right now, I need to rest.
All right. I just knew something must have happened to you. I'm glad you're all right.
So am I.
Your husband is back.
There. Your husband is back.
I almost died, by the
He
way.
wasn't far from becoming wolf food.
So I've heard. He told me what happened. If you hadn't found him, I'd be a widow.
Aye. But it all turned out all right in the end.
Thank you. We're both in your debt. And Henry, come and see Vostatek sometime. The poor man will be stuck at home with his leg in this state. If you're ever around, come and keep him company. We'd be happy to have you.
Ah, he's awake now and he's dressed.
How about a reward for getting you home?
Sure, you got me home, but I took a hell of a beating.
What do you
Your
mean?
shoulders are bloody pointy. And you were tossing me around so much, I nearly threw up.
You sure that wasn't the booze?
Very droll. I've got a hideout in the forest. My horse is there. What's going to happen to him now?
You wanted me to
Oh,
get you
yeah.
home, so I got you home. It all worked out fine in the end, didn't it?
I don't have my horse. He must have run off by now, or someone stole him.
Do you want me to find it? Cut the bush and cough up a reward.
Like, do you want me to go back and find the horse?
Forget it. I don't want anything more from you. Knowing you, you'd just bring back horse sausages, because they'd be easier to carry.
Well, maybe I'll be able to track him down.
You've done enough. There are all sorts of bandits roaming around these parts, and I don't want you on my conscience. So don't worry about it, and take the reward for saving me at least. Here you are. Stop by for a drink sometime if you'd like.
Do you have any other troubles? 25 groschen, that's it.
Well then, does the best forester in the land have some problems I could help him with?
So it's a really cool interaction between both of them, but now you saved him, you'll be able to start the next side quest called Birds of Prey. This is another series of quests where you'll need to find and hunt 2 poachers for Gameskeeper Vostatic. And it doesn't matter if you find them, kill them, or arrest them, or how you actually solve the quest line, but after you found the poachers, he will mention a third one called the Ghost. Also, just on another side note, if you do successfully bring back the poachers by arresting them, you'll take them back to the Troskowitz bailiff, he'll give you a better reward, and then he'll hang them on a tree just outside the village. Because obviously poaching in medieval times is a capital punishment. And interestingly, there's a lot of quests that can result in certain NPCs getting hung on this very tree. So I'm kind of curious how many bodies you can hang on this tree by the end of completing all the side quests and the main quest content. And if you do want to watch my entire playthrough of this quest line, it's over 2 hours long and you can find it linked below. In that playthrough, we actually go out and find all of the poachers. And after you have found them all, the Gameskeeper will then tell you to help the other Gameskeeper called Varel, who also needs help with some poachers too, one of which is known as the Ghost. And Gamekeeper Varel is located all the way in the southwest of the map near Nebekov Mill. He's actually located in this hunter's hut just opposite the mill itself. From the entrance to Nebekov Mill, just turn around and head up the zigzag slope to lead you to the hunter's cottage. Once you're there, you can then talk to the Gameskeeper, who's going to tell you to find 2 other bands of poachers before he will tell you more about the Ghost. So once you've done that, he will finally give you the quest to hunt down the final poacher, the Ghost.
Are you going to finally tell me about the Ghost?
Aye, I will. I need you to catch him. This Ghost fella is a poacher too, but he ain't like any other poacher we've had, I can tell you.
Where should I look for him then? How is this poacher different from the others?
What else can you tell me about him? Why do you think he's different than the other poachers?
He's one big mystery, that bastard. He's a damn good hunter. Every shot hits the mark. A real archery master.
Ooh.
On the other hand, he leaves a right mess. And the way he guts the animals is shoddy. I ain't sure if he does it on purpose or he's just sloppy.
Could he be a huntsman with a grudge? Could he be a cumin?
Sounds like he could be a huntsman out for revenge.
Nobody's taking revenge on me, that's for sure. But I don't know if Vostatek cursed anyone during a moment of weakness. But it's true, there's a lot that suggests this ghost ain't local.
Not local person poaching, right. So what do I do with him when I find him?
Do you want me to send him to the gallows?
Exactly. If he ain't already wolf food or ain't armed to the teeth.
Where should I look for him?
That bastard is poaching between my patch and Vostatek's. He knows it's the least patrolled area, since we don't quite know which one of us is responsible for it. You just need to head north a bit from Trotsky Castle.
To the north of the castle? Any idea where I should start?
You can start at the crossroads, northeast of the castle. Search the rocks there. Like I says, us huntsmen don't go there much, so we don't know the area.
I'll get on it then.
I can't wait to see how this turns out.
So we head north of Trotsky Castle into the woods here. We eventually get to this shrine just before we're going to find the Ghost somewhere in this forest hunting. Now he also did mention a crossroad, and there's no crossroads down here. So I think we're going to go along this road until we reach a crossroad. That's Trotsky Castle. This is the little shrine here underneath the tree as you're coming from Trotsky. And we're just going to head down this path and see what we come across.
Quick!
Any spooky... Oh, one sec. I can see something on the horizon just here already. Looks like a little bench or something to admire the view. Quite a nice little spot. Find out about the poaching in the forest. Dried Balentus.
Could this be a poacher's workplace? Then the owner might not be far away.
Poacher's gear. There's also a strong bowman's brew. I can't see anyone near here. I guess what we'll do then is walk back and forth along this. Oh, look, there's a basket right here. Piercing arrow. He's used most of the arrows. and a marigold potion. So if we walk down here, we might be able to find the poacher's trail. Oh look, you see this white stick covered in ash? That's definitely marking the trail, and there's another little poacher's symbol up here. If you ever see these little symbols in the woods, by the way, they're a great way of tracking hunters. Leads you to like little cabins or tents and stuff. Oh, here he is.
This is a poacher's lair, for sure. So where's the poacher?
He's right bloody there. Should we assassinate him? It's Hans Capon.
Henry?
Sir Hans! What are you doing here?
Don't shout. Come here.
I've never seen Hans out of his noble get-up. Come here, you poacher.
Henry?
So from Troskowitz, we went north to Trotsky Castle just here. We zoom in again. Follow this road to the northeast and then go directly north until you get between these two cliffs. And it's actually called Capons Camp. I didn't even know that was a location on the map where you could find what Hans Capon was doing this entire time. But trust Warhorse to put in a detail like that. What are you doing?
Sir Hans, I'm here hunting poachers, and I come across you.
Henry? I never expected you here.
I was sent here by the Nebakov gamekeeper. He said there are poachers here, and I don't have to be King Solomon to figure out who the poacher is, do I? Oh, Jesus. You couldn't choose something different? There's all sorts of ways to make money.
Now hold your horses. How else are we supposed to get some coin quickly so we don't have to go around looking like beggars?
By honest work? This is very risky.
Look, no one found me here until you turned up. And you're only here because you're doing some terribly noble deed again and helping out old grannies in distress. And this is how it turns out.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, don't talk about Bojana like that. She's a fine woman. Why poaching? What are you doing with the game? Let's say why poaching.
There are plenty of ways you could earn money. Why poaching of all things?
I've always been good at hunting. Remember how we went hunting together the first time?
Yes.
I really showed you up, didn't I?
No.
As I recall, it was the other way around.
What rot! I'll make a pile of coins selling this game. And then, that idiot on the gate will finally believe we're not beggars. He'll be laughing on the other side of his face when we turn up in our finery. And it's a much better way than your idiotic idea with the forge.
Poaching is forbidden.
You know very well that poaching is a serious crime.
Ah, but this is an exceptional situation. We're messengers. It's only through unfortunate circumstances that we ended up like this. If von Berghoff knew about it, he wouldn't even regard it as poaching. Besides, he'd never leave an honoured guest and a noble to go hungry.
You do know that if they caught you, von Berghoff would never even hear of it.
Henry, you've got to look at it in the broader perspective.
Jesus.
What are you doing with all the game? You know, it's funny because I was speaking to the innkeeper at the Zhelyov Wagoners Inn, and he was mentioning that someone actually came by to sell him game. And I think it was a poacher. It could have been Hans for all we know.
And what are you doing with the game you hunt?
Thanks to my bargaining skills, I've got to deal with an excellent trader in Troskowitz.
And you realise that this trader of yours could snitch on you if he's in a corner? Or just for the reward?
My trader is reliable.
Maybe, but someone might see you together.
That's not going to happen. We're careful.
The gamekeeper wants to get rid of poachers around here, and I promise to help him do it.
Well, that's awkward for you, isn't it? Any idea what you're going to tell him?
Have you? Surely you don't expect me to tell him I didn't find anyone?
Why the hell not? You just found some abandoned camp, no? It's a stroke of luck that he sent you, eh?
You have to stop. What shall I tell the gamekeeper?
You have to stop doing it. We can't risk you getting found out. Maybe just by chance.
And have you any better idea of how we get to the castle? Eh? Look at the state of yourself. No matter how you dress up, you still have straw sticking out of your boots. With my plan, we'd have at least some chance.
And what am I supposed to tell the gamekeeper now?
I don't know. Make something up. Maybe you found the poacher and he didn't want to surrender. He attacked you, and you beat him. And that's that.
It might work. No, that's not going to be enough. He would send someone to deal with you, like he did the other poachers.
You have to cooperate at least a bit, though. If I found you, then so can anyone else. Like people from the castle?
You're making a fuss about nothing. It was purely by chance that you found me. I'll cover all my tracks, clear the path, and I'll be very careful from now on. Just relax, no one will find me. I'll see to that.
It's not enough. How are you going to hide a camp in the middle of the woods?
I already told you what I'll do so that they don't find me. If it's not enough for you, bugger off.
Oh, and the gamekeeper will want to see some proof that I found the poacher and dealt with him. Got anything?
I could give you my equipment. It'd be pretty hard to survive without it, but...
To poach without it?
Yeah, that's settled then.
All right.
So he's going to stay here, and we've got to go back to the gamekeeper with some evidence that we've found him. But he's still going to be poaching, and I mean, we know what happens in the storyline, so... Oh boy. Look, he's got antlers and the deer here. I like how the campsite is actually labeled Capons Camp. So now we got to travel back to Nebekov Mill and tell the gamekeeper what happened. But obviously we've got to make up a story for this. Here's the gamekeeper who just eats food all day and doesn't actually do anything.
Do you need something?
I do. Found the Kopanina poacher.
You don't have to worry about the last poacher either anymore. But it was one hell of a job, I can tell you.
Really? Go on. Where was he?
North of Trotsky. He had a small camp there. Below a cliff. Just like you said.
I'm sure he realised there wasn't any point resisting. What did you do with him?
I arrested him. Or I killed him. His camp was abandoned. I killed him.
I had to kill him.
Why did you have to?
That fella wasn't keen on being arrested. The first thing he did was draw a hunting knife on me. He's done for, in any case.
Got any proof?
I found this
doesn't believe
gear
it.
on him. He probably used it to make traps. And some tongs as well. Probably for pulling out teeth and that.
Look how well kitted out them poaching vermin are. I see why he didn't want to just pack it in. He had a good thing going there. Good work. Here's your reward.
Thanks. That's a generous reward.
We don't have any more poachers, so take it as a parting gift from us huntsmen. It'll be a long time before any more of the arseholes turn up in the Trotsky forests. You sent out a clear signal what they can expect. Well, you can take a look at my bows if you want, and in return for your help,
Nice.
I'll take a bit off the usual price. Don't use it for poaching, though.
That's not a bad idea, you know.
Don't
not
even
laughing.
think about it.
Of course not. Thanks.
I'll tell Vostatek to do the same. But just between you and me, better buy one from me. Bows soaked in spirits aren't very hard wearing.
So I'm curious now, if we go back to Hans Capon's camp just over here on the map, I want to know if he actually did leave or not.
The camp's abandoned, and Capon is gone. I hope nothing happened to him.
You can also tell the gamekeeper the truth, but he won't actually believe you. Let's tell the truth this time.
Well, it's like this. I did find that poacher, actually.
What did you do with him?
Nothing. He's a friend of mine, you see.
What?
He's a nobleman from Ratai. Hans Capon. I'm in his service, in fact.
Are you yanking my pizzle? Can you just answer the question instead of making up stories?
Now, it is also possible to convince Hans Capon to stop poaching, but it seems either way, whether you fail or pass that speech check, the Wedding Crashers quest, where Hans and you get invited to the wedding, still concludes with a brawl breaking out and both of you getting arrested and thrown into Trotsky Dungeon. And somehow Hans Capon is still linked to the person who was poaching in the woods. But it's never discovered how they found that out, even if you tried to cover it up for him. But we can actually discover who it was who reported him. So obviously when we initially asked Hans about what he's doing with the game, he does say that he has a deal with a trader in Troskowitz. And Henry even points out that that trader might snitch on him, claim the reward on his head, or even somebody might have seen them together. As for who Hans was actually selling meat to in Troskowitz, the most obvious person is probably the butcher in Troskowitz. And we can actually do some more digging on this. Since after leaving the stocks, if you go around all the taverns and townsmen, you can ask them if they've seen Sir Hans. Hans. And initially, if you speak to the Troskowitz butcher, he does not have this dialogue option because Hans has only just left the stocks and he's had no chance to go and start poaching yet, so he has no meat to sell it. But if you return a few days later after the game's progressed a bit and you speak to the Troskowitz butcher again, the butcher is suddenly particularly suspicious with what he knows.
I'm looking for a friend. He's called Capon. I'm sure you'd recognize him. In fact, you saw us both in the pillory, didn't you?
Aye, I saw you, but I ain't bothered, you know. You didn't rob me, because if you did, I'd cut your thieving hands off on the spot.
Well, what about my friend? Have you seen him since?
He must be some friend if he's scarpered without you, eh?
I'm sorry, but that's not your business, is it? Was he here then?
No, he weren't. But I ain't saying I don't know anything. Just that it ain't your business, lad. And don't try anything on me. My business ain't your business. Got that? If that Capon wants to see you, I'm sure he'll find you. He ain't no fool, I reckon.
So the butcher admitted to knowing something, but also says that it's not Henry's business. So obviously Hans has a relationship with supplying the butcher with stolen game. And we can also find a deer carcass and other deer meat around the butcher's house, especially inside the off-limits area of the butcher's home. And also he sells deer roe hides to you when you trade with it. So Hans was probably sold out by the butcher or most definitely seen with him, but we'll never know why or for sure. Let me know if you've got any other predictions or ideas in the comment section. Now obviously as the game events progress, we do unlock another new dialogue line once we're both arrested and in Trotsky Castle dungeon. Instead of Henry asking what Hans was actually doing, he points out that him, the Lord of Perkstein, was poaching, and Hans says it's fine because he's a noble even if he didn't have permission. After that, the story just continues as normal. Hans gets a wake-up call that poaching as a peasant is a capital crime, and then you obviously need to save him. Either way, it's really cool that this mini encounter is possible in the game. I obviously understand why it doesn't affect the canon story arc of the game, but having that in there is one of those really cool attentions to detail that most developers would just leave out, but one I personally really appreciate. There's a lot more cool details like this in the game, like in this video here where you can actually find the Cumans who raided Skalitz in the first game and enact revenge on them. You can check that video out over here, but thank you so much for watching, and I'm really keen to know your theories in the comments.